I think it may have been in that spirit of service that our next honoree, David Rubenstein, who was a poor boy from Baltimore who just happened to graduate with honors from Duke and be the editor of the Law Review at the University of Chicago, decided as a young man to go into government and public service. So at age 26, David became the Deputy Assistant for Domestic Policy for Jimmy Carter, the president, who assigned him the task under Stu Eisenstadt of dealing with inflation. David, over the course of 3 years, was able to get inflation up to 19%, which was a new record. So I think that it's also good that people decide to serve in the private sector, as David did. And of course, he helped, was a co-CEO, is a co-CEO, and was a co-founder of the Carlyle Group. But more importantly, he is somebody who, to pick up on the phrase Bob used earlier, knows how to move from success to significance, which is something we always talk about at the Aspen Institute. He is somebody who has served in so many capacities, whether it's chairman of the board of the Kennedy Center, a regent of the Smithsonian, the vice chairman of the board at Duke, the head of the Capitol campaign at the Kennedy School at Harvard. When the Washington Monument was hit, not quite by a hurricane, but by a storm, and it was cracked, David, who has a deep sense of history, knowing, having been in government for those 3 years or whatever, how hard it is for government to fully just jump into action, said, how much would it cost just to fix this? And then he said, I'll pay for it. Let's get it fixed. That deep sense of history, I think, is part of his leadership and his character. He bought a copy of the Emancipation Proclamation to make sure that the nation and the Smithsonian had it. When the Magna Carta came for sale, one of the few copies of it, he bought it and also donated to the nation. Those of us who are amateur historians appreciate people who feel that our values come from a feel for our history. He also got one of the great Benjamin Franklin's original printings of the Declaration of Independence. I have seen it in the Franklin Room of the State Department. I think it's also traveled to other places. He's also done the 13th Amendment and has a copy of it for the White House. So in many ways, David has been somebody who exemplifies values. Our nation's history is values. Some values that we were able to see with this hurricane, which is understanding we're all in the same boat, we're all connected, we all have to work together in times of crisis. David is also somebody who has been an exemplar of great corporate leadership. And so it's my honor to bestow the Aspen Institute Corporate Leadership Award, presented each year to an individual whose exemplary leadership embodies the values and traditions of the Aspen Institute and all of its endeavors. It is my great honor to present to you a close friend, somebody I've always admired, and somebody whose feel for leadership. We saw tonight Amit of the India Leadership Program. We saw Gabby of our Rodel program. I'd like to tell you, in case you don't know, that David also has created a China Leadership Institute, where the Rubenstein Fellows of the Aspen Institute will also be coming from China. Thank you very much, David.
Walter, thank you very much for those very kind words. I'm sorry that my mother could not be here to hear them. She would have believed them. She was going to come this evening, but she lives in a place that's a suburb of New York. It's West Palm Beach, and it was hard to get up here. I almost didn't make it here myself this evening. I was out of town, and I realized yesterday when I was out of town that I forgot the tux that I had to wear this evening. So I arranged quickly yesterday when I was in a different city to have a tux made for me so that I would have a tux this evening. And it was delivered, driven there, here a couple cities away, got it in my office this afternoon, and I got an email right at the same time saying, no black tux tonight. So I decided to wear my suit. But another problem was I had to leave town earlier this afternoon, and I had to come back. I needed to change, so I was looking for a hotel to change. It was hard to get hotels. I told the driver, just keep driving. You find a motel somewhere I can change at. So I finally found a place that said, you know, vacancies. I got in there. I said, I got to change. I need the room just for half an hour. You know, just need to change. I don't have my identification. Can I just pay cash? The guy said, let me see, you don't have any identification, you want the room for 30 minutes, and you just want to pay cash, right? Let me get to the manager. The manager came out, and finally I explained what I was doing. I was come here this evening, and I was glad that when I was changing, I didn't, you know, have a heart attack and drop dead there, because I could see the headline, you know, Rubenstein drops dead after renting a hotel for 30 minutes. Anyway, but I'm happy to be here. As Walter said, I came from very modest circumstances. I grew up in a Jewish ghetto in Baltimore. The Jews were forbidden to buy homes from other people, and so we had to live in a very ghetto kind of area in Baltimore. My father and mother never graduated from college or high school, and my father never made more than $8,000 a year. And so I figured if I ever got anywhere in life, I would want to repay the people that made it possible for me to do so. And as I got lucky in life, and I thought I would be a public servant, that was my great calling. I wanted to go and serve the country, as John Kennedy had asked our country to do in his famous inaugural address. And obviously, as you heard, my stint in government wasn't rewarded by success. It's not easy to get inflation to 19%, trust me. It's not easy to get mortgage rates at 22% either. And President Carter still thinks that to this day the reason he didn't get reelected is because it was thought that I would be the senior domestic advisor in the second term. So not having done very well in government, I went out and practiced law again, and when I practiced law, all of my clients said, are you thinking about doing something else? I got a hint that I wasn't good at that, and I got very lucky. I started a company 25 years ago, much more successful than I deserved it to be, and now as a result of that, I realized when I hit a certain age that I didn't really want to die having given away virtually none of my money and have my executor do it. So I decided to resolve to give away virtually all my money, and I hope that if I live a normal lifespan to do so over the next 20 years or so. With our other honoree, George Lucas, I've signed the Giving Pledge with Warren Buffett and Bill Gates, and that says you give away half of your money, but I resolved to give away virtually all of it because I don't really want to burden my children with great wealth. They don't agree with that view, but you know, very few children, very few people who have inherited enormous sums of money go on to win Nobel Prizes or change the world, make the world better. So I think they'll be better off without the money. And what I want to do is do two things. One is to show that people who get fortunate in life can have an obligation to give back to the community or those who made it possible for them to be successful, and that's what I am trying to do in my own small way. And this country's been great to me and to my family. My family did come over, I think, from Lithuania as well, but they didn't quite get the word, and their name was actually Rockefeller. And when they got to Ellis Island, my great-grandfather said, I want a nice ethnic name. Get rid of this Rockefeller name. Give me something like Rubenstein. So that's why I have that name. But it is my view that we should all remember what the word philanthropy is. The ancient Greek word philanthropy means loving humanity. It doesn't mean rich people giving away cash. It means loving other people, and you can do it by giving your time or your ideas or your energy. And if you're fortunate to have money, you can do that as well. But money isn't the only thing philanthropists can do and everybody can do to help other people. So I think everybody has an obligation to help other people to make the world a better place, and that's what I hope I can instill in my children, the belief that that is something that's worth doing and they don't need to have a lot of money to help other people. And I hope by my example that other people who've been successful in the business world also will step up to the plate and say, there's no great pride in dying with enormous sums of money. Give the money away or do whatever you can to help other people while you're alive, when you have the energy and ideas and time to do so. And so to the extent that I receive this award, I really would do it tonight as a symbol for all the people who, like me, have been successful in life and are now beginning the process of repaying this country for the great good luck that we've had. So there are many people like me, and I really am just symbolic of many people who are now trying to repay this country for the great success that it has made us possible to have, and also the obligation we have to humanity and to this country for what we have been fortunate enough to get. So I want to thank the Aspen Institute for this award, and I want to thank the Aspen Institute for what it does for humanity itself and for making the world a better place. One of the most important things we have in the world is the ability to discuss issues and to resolve things peacefully and to try to improve the dialogue and make humanity better by getting good ideas. And Aspen, under the current leadership, has done a spectacular job of making sure that people come together to recognize the issues that face this country, try to come up with solutions, and hopefully the public dialogue will be enhanced by that. So Walter and all the others who are on the board, and Bob Steele and others have done a spectacular job, and I'm very pleased to be involved with the Aspen Institute and very proud to call myself a supporter of the Aspen Institute, because it is one of the organizations that is doing a very good thing to make the world a better place. And let me just conclude with the sentence that I always remember from President Kennedy. His famous inaugural address, we all remember the signature line, and he intended it to be the signature line. And that signature line and that speech was drafted in part with Ted Sorensen, whose wife is here this evening, Jillian. And that famous line, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country," is, of course, the signature line, and it is what inspired me as a young man to want to go into government. But that speech ended with another line that I always remember, and to me it's much more significant. "With a good conscience, our only sure reward, with history, the final judge of our deeds, let us go forth to lead the land we love, asking His blessing and His help, but knowing that here on earth, God's work must truly be our own." And I think what Aspen is doing is God's work on earth. Thank you very much.